We got good news for you, Mike.
Oh,
Swift's 12th album, The Life of a Showgirl, dropped last Friday at midnight and has already broken records. The biggest single day streams of 2025 on Spotify and Apple Music, and the most streamed album in a single day ever on Amazon Music. Mike, as our resident Swiftie, what's your take on the album and the insane success it's having right out the gate?
well, I'm not surprised. She kind of marketed that way from the beginning, said that it was going to be a huge, very danceable album, and it is. And I'm not surprised because and it's funny because you go on social media like TikTok or the Gram or somewhere, and you get obviously every time that she does anything, she gets lots of detractors, right? So I found it funny because of course me being a Swiftie, I had to listen to the album when it went live at midnight, and immediately you had people going, "Oh, it's terrible. This out, it's not, And then, of course, within 12 hours, I think the numbers speak for themselves. And she set like pretty much every record that you could set. Another stat, she's the first person in the history of the world to have the number one movie and the number one album on the same weekend.
That's crazy.
That's never happened before. And I think, but people don't know about her. She's actually the only female that's ever been on the Time magazine cover of the year twice. No other female has ever
Oh,
done that.
wow. Well,
So she's an interesting character. She certainly knows how to market. Let's put it that way.
that's kind of my slant on the whole story is, I'm not a Swiftie. This is the first album I ever purchased of hers, first one I listened to from beginning to end. And I did a lot of research on her. And like I mentioned last week, first I found out that she writes all her stuff. She's not just somebody that a producer created, but I've also found out she's one of the greatest businessmen or business persons in entertainment. And the way I first discovered it was I was trying to buy her album, and stream her album because I have Napster, so I pretty much can hear all music for a set price.
Yep.
But hers isn't included. So I discovered she's a handful of artists who doesn't stream. You got to buy her albums. And she's got the power to actually people go out and buy it. People don't be like, oh, F you. They go out and buy it. So she's come up with a business model, and the business model works. So that's one thing I want to give her credit for. She
Well,
she she's
that's one
she's
of
not
the
the dummy cute girl that everybody's making
oh
her
no.
out to be at
And that's one of the
all.
things that you got to realize that this year was huge for her. She finished doing the Eras tour, which was like probably was the top grossing tour of all time from anybody. But on top of that, she also acquired all of her past music.
Right.
So it's that
Masters.
she owns all of her own music, which for those of you that weren't aware of that she got it sold out from under her a number of years ago, and then being the business person that she is, she re-released all of the albums for a second time so that she could control the rights and the income from them, and then ended up being able to buy the original albums back. So now she owns her entire catalog, and as you said, Phil, she completely controls all the streaming. I mean, she's taken some flack on this particularly new album because she released, you say that she releases it on streaming, and she also released about 12 different variations of the album from the get-go, meaning like, there's like multiple colors of records, and there's, she even released it on cassette tape. I mean, she released it all these different ways. And then on top of that, she released an entire album from the get-go, a clean version, the unedited version, a dance version. So she's right on top of all of that, and she doesn't release anything in advance. So everybody had to wait till midnight on
Right.
Friday to hear anything. She doesn't release singles. Totally different marketing than pretty much any other artist I've ever heard of. So it's interesting to watch for sure.
Right. And with her buying back her masters, she didn't just like increase her income, she tripled it because she has song credits, she's the singer, and she's
Yeah.
produced some of them, so she's
Yeah.
getting like multiple checks from every time somebody buys one of these old albums.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in what her worth will be like in the next 5 years, not even what it is now, because that's going to just extrapolate those numbers to a crazy. I think she's going to be a billionaire.
Oh yeah. I mean, she's pretty close already. So she's yeah. It's kind of an amazing story, and still fairly young. You know, she's what 35 or something. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm as a Swiftie, I was impressed by the new album. To be honest, there's 12 tracks on it, and they're all pretty dancey. They got it. I had to laugh because you already see people in cycling studios and whatnot. They're already. I mean, that's typical of her fans, I guess. Everybody knows every word of every song already. It's like
She
it's as if it's been out for 6 months already, and it's only been like less than a week.
she's written a few of them in what I call the anthem style. There's
Yes.
like
Yeah.
three
Yeah.
songs on the album I could see just constantly being on commercials or in a movie and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And I she has touched the pulse of women her age.
Yep.
Mike, I don't know if you remember or know anything about Carole King.
Yep.
Carole King, I believe, was the first of her ilk, where she's the singer songwriter, and she doesn't sing what everybody else is singing. She's singing about what women are thinking and feeling,
Yes.
and she's the evolution of Carole King.
Agreed, Phil. And it's one of the things I'm glad you noticed that because she definitely always writes songs about whatever is going on in her life at the time.
Mhm.
So this album is focused largely on her relationship and her new relationship with Travis Kelce and all that. But like all of her albums are always better. She doesn't make up fantasy songs really
Right.
about other stuff. Which is very interesting. And she's not singing political stuff, and she's not getting all distracted by a bunch of stuff around her.
She doesn't sing and write mainstream. She sings and writes her stream.
Yep, and is copied by a lot of
Yes.
artists, a lot
Yeah.
of artists. Yeah,
Uh,
yep. So yeah,
and just one last thing about her, Mike. We're talking about how great her business savvy is. Well, there are other people who could do that, nobody would go buy their album. There's only a handful of people I think in all of entertainment could do what she's doing. Maybe a Beyonce,
yep,
and I can't really maybe a Lady Gaga.
yep. Lady Gaga has done some of that. So what it is they're pulling together elements of both. As you said, she writes her stuff, so she's a prolific writer, and she's written, by the way, some hit songs for other groups and other bands as well. So it's not just hers, but on top of that, she has the choreography and the dancing and the stage show that is reminiscent of some of those artists that we've talked about on the podcast here before, that are huge throughout history. So she pulls in that element, and is able to cross genres. So like right, so it's pop music, but she's done country, but she's performed with like a variety of artists from all walks of life, like all different streams of music. So she's able to kind of cross those boundaries. And you'll notice, like, yes, you said that her number one, her number one, let's call it her number one clientele is women of her age group, which, by the way, has gone from 16 years old to 35 now. But
Right.
um,
Right.
but there's lots of men. There's lots of older people. She's got all sorts of other follow. Obviously, you could see by the numbers. And that's and you mentioned Lady Gaga, who, by the way, I also love. Lady Gaga is super talented. She's another one because, like when she did that movie, I mean, her acting ability and her it's amazing. So there are a number of artists that can do this. I think the difference with Taylor is that she's a business person, and she's very thorough. And I've been watching her this week, and she doesn't do a lot of interviews, by the way, but I've been watching her this week with the album release, and she's been on late night television, and she's done some interviews with some people, and she's very quick witted. She's kind of funny, but she's very well spoken, and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
unique.
She's definitely well spoken, but you can see she has strong media training
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I've seen her just dance through the questions that they ask her without giving
yep,
any answers
yep,
with a smile.
yep.
And they're smiling and they forget that they were trying to trick her.
That's right. So it's been a good. And by the way, just so you guys know, I would have shown you on the podcast if you were visually watching this. I don't have the. I ordered the orange, the record, and it hasn't come yet. Well, it got delivered to my place in San Diego, but it hasn't made its way down here to Baja yet. It takes a while to get things shipped down here, so I'm still waiting for my album. Maybe today. We'll see.